is being flooded.
We are at the moment physically cut off from any help.
We've got to look at how we respond to that disaster.
In the Republic of Cornwall, the crisis continues to unfold as emergency services fail to reach those most in need.
Here at Truro School, pupils are looking at a range of responses required to deal with such an emergency.
We're teaching the pupils some first aid lessons so they know what to do in a situation if they find someone unconscious, to help them out, check their airways and put them in a recovery position to help save a life.
And what is the purpose of this?
To help out in any natural disasters so the pupils know what they're doing if they're in Cornwall, if there's a flood or anywhere else in the world with any other natural disasters going on.
Well, it's an important life skill, and we were practicing being casualty and being the helper. And it was really fun to see how we would actually react in those situations.
Well, today they're learning all about what it's like to be a Shelterbox response team. So first of all, they're having to put up the tent with some instructions. They're having to work together as a team and learn all about how putting up a tent helps families who've been affected by disaster. So if you've lost your home, it's obviously a place to shelter you from the elements. Another team over here, they have 5 different emergency situations and they've only got 1 shelter box. So they're having to work out and talk amongst themselves about who is going to get the last box in their deployment.
What kind of things do you find in a shelter box?
There's a stove, a water purification system, there are games for kids if they're getting bored, there's blankets, hats and gloves if it's cold, and stuff to keep the sun out of your face if it's really hot, and just general things to make life more easy when you're in that situation.
Setting priorities in an emergency is never an easy task. Here at the Sports Hall, the Shelterbox team are challenging students with difficult decisions.
Today, the pupils are putting themselves in the feet of the response team members on the ground. So we're looking at, okay, if you were to respond to the Republic of Cornwall floods, what are you thinking about? How many people have been affected? What's the geography of the area? All the issues around logistics. You've got boxes of aid coming into the country, where those people that have been affected are, and how best to prioritise who and how you respond.
When we ordered the plane to come, we also ordered the boat as well.
We're deciding how many boxes to give to the most endangered places.
You have 20 minutes to go back to your groups, prioritise what you're going to do, when, where and how you're going to distribute, getting the most for the most.
We were given a whole list of what had gone wrong and where the most affected areas were, and in the example the hospital had no way of getting in there, so we thought that we should prioritise that.
And also we're going to clear the motorways so trucks, cars can come in and give out the boxes.
That was the sum up of what they're going to do about the damage and the points of clearing the motorways from all the damage from the floods. Because of the Haiti earthquakes and other big natural disasters that appear on the news, I have thought about this and thought of things that I would do when something like this would happen, because living in Cornwall we all live quite near the sea.
In terms of how the group worked together and then how they actually had a really good final presentation, that Group 2, the second group to present, were the winners.
It was good to know that our ideas finally managed to all come together so that the judges and teachers thought that what we had done had planned out well.
The play is set in some sort of post-apocalypse situation, and in the opening scene the young people encounter one another in a sort of burnt-out, wrecked house.
Try to feel that you're telling one another a story. You're actually creating a story out of this play.
The students begin by reading the play to get a sense of it, and then we actually will direct a couple of students in the opening bit. It just kind of helps them to identify really with that aspect of disasters whereby people kind of lose their identity and lose a lot of the context that gives them their sense of identity.
Their feet are wet. People in the shops have started sweeping water away, closing their doors.
We started looking at how we can use imagination and drama techniques to really try and picture themselves in a situation. It becomes far easier for people to experience what it might feel like using those kind of techniques. We know what it's like to feel rain, we know what it's like to feel panic, or to be in a stressful situation, whether that's very small. And then using the power of drama and imagination, we can emphasise that, and hopefully people can get a better sense of what it might be like in a situation like that.
Teamwork, communication and leadership are vital in times of need. The Royal Navy are on site running a number of tasks.
Well, we've got the Royal Navy down here just to give an understanding of what we do in disaster relief exercises, so what we could be doing around the world if there's floods or anything like that. So we've got our tent building exercises, which we'll put the tent up without blindfolds on, then to simulate putting the tent up in the dark in poor conditions. We'll blindfold part of the team and have one person in charge, just to build up communication skills, teamwork and trust.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's perfect.
And then we move on down to, we have our buckets, which is to simulate getting fuel out of a minefield.
What's the most important skill that you have to be able to operate an exercise such as this one?
I'd say leadership. If you don't have somebody taking control, somebody confident in front of everyone, it'll go downhill and it'll be a bit hard to get the job done. If we move further down, we've got the cargo net. For this example, we're using it to simulate carrying valuables under an obstacle.
And what do you want people to get out of this exercise?
This is just more teamwork as well, along with the other practical leadership tasks. If you don't have teamwork or leadership, then it just would go downhill and you wouldn't be able to get the tasks completed. Pupils have actually been really impressive. We do all these in our basic training, and there's 26-year-old men who struggle with most of these tasks.
It felt, chaotic. You have no idea what you're doing. That really puts a perspective on things, because so many people affected by these disasters, they just, we have no idea.
We are now off to the Red Cross Centre, where students are frantically constructing tents. These tents will be tested to see if they are able to withstand both wind and rain in situations such as these in Truro.
The activity we're taking part in today is building a shelter. Now they've got to take into account that this shelter is going to be used in an area that's flooded, as the disaster today. There's only certain items available that they can build it out of, and as a group they've got to design the shelter, build it, and then with 400 credits, that's all the only credits they're allowed. As the period goes on and the stocks dwindle, then obviously the prices go up. So they're not going to get the same prices in a half hour's time that they're getting now. So we'll give them a reality of what it's going to be like in real life, to be honest.
We went for a basic design.
We cut slits in the side of the cardboard to attach the string to keep the doors on and the whole thing together.
We've got these to stop, if it floods, to stop it from falling over.
The triangle base and covered it in tarpaulin, and we made a door.
It's just covered in tarpaulin to make it waterproof, really.
We made like a normal tent shape so the water could run down the sides, and we covered it in tarpaulin so it was waterproof. And we made some little people to go outside out of lollipop sticks as well.
We've got the fans over in the end. We put 3 fans on them to make sure that they're stable and all the tarpaulin stays on, and then we cover them in water just to make sure that they're waterproof at the end.
So you had 250 credits was the budget, and you had to buy things within that budget. And I've learned to stick together lollipop sticks with masking tape, and and put tarpaulin sheet on top of cardboard, that was really good. Yeah.
Across the school site, pupils are looking at disaster response scenarios. We spoke to Madame Rosier about the Red Cross approach to rebuilding.
The theme of this session is recovering a future. So after disaster has struck, how are people going to have a future again, rather than just watching the disaster and being hit by these pictures that we see all the time on our screens? They are thinking about what sort of decisions are really needed to help people in real life. For instance, the first decision they had to take was how is the initial help going to be distributed? Will they try to help everybody, or are they going to help the worst hit people, or are they going to try to help a lot of people but also concentrate on the worst hit? That sort of decision.
We had to decide things like where we had to get the resources from to rebuild the houses, or who's going to build the houses. We had like 3 decisions to make, and then we would decide as a group which one.
It's quite hard to put yourself in that situation because you don't really imagine it would ever happen to you.
What we've done is the first stage of a risk assessment, and then we go into the next stage is where we look at the threat and evaluate those threats, levels, how it will affect you, and then how we mitigate that risks. If I'm doing a risk assessment for travelling around the world, the highest threat to anybody travelling is transport.
So it's psychological response to disaster. So it's how they're going to react to a threat and how they take themselves forward and prepare themselves effectively for that through knowledge from lectures like this, and also experience of first aid and real life scenarios out there that they log those and then draw on that experience when they're faced with real threats in the future.
I was with on a school trip, and this guy next to us, he fell over because of a heart attack, and I just kind of acted quickly, and he's alive now, and he sent me a card to say thank you.
We went through a process which is survival psychology. It's understanding how we react to different disaster situations as they happen. Interaction's been incredible. You know, the guys have been really interested in the subject, and understanding the threats that they could face going forward is really important, that they own the risks and they look and assess those risks.
With the Republic of Cornwall underwater and Truro having declared a state of emergency, we are now off to the Media Response Centre to see what the pupils have been creating to convey their message of help and the items they are in desperate need of.
Well, these pupils are part of the Media Response Centre, and we have limited communication networks in Cornwall at the moment. So basically they're creating a poster, and it's got to be very visually appealing, very simple, eye-catching, so that they can communicate to the rest of the nation our massive problem with this flood and get us some aid, really, and some help. And we've had amazing posters. They've been asking for sort of medical aid, shelter, water, all the basic amenities, and some of them have done appeals about cholera epidemics spreading in Cornwall. They're using polyprinting methods with the art department, and then we're looking at the sort of language of emergency advertising and appeals. These are the 2 favourites so far. This one, the group works really well together. They said, our emergency, your empathy, and he uses a stethoscope as the question mark. And they had a medical bottle here of drugs, and they decided to make it look on the medical bottle as if sort of fire, wind and water, and these sort of drugs that you'd need for a disaster. And then I really liked the language on this one. They did Cornwall needs quenching, water, water everywhere, but not a drop to drink, and a sort of hand reaching up for droplets of water for hope.
We made posters to ask for things to help in Cornwall, and we asked for pasties because everyone in Cornwall likes pasties, and we printed them with different colours and incorporated different things such as a British Red Cross into the print.
Have you any need in a disaster zone for writing materials? Can I start the bidding at £5 for the writing materials? £5. Multiples of 5 only, I'm afraid. We have a bid. £5 I'm bid for the writing materials. £15 going once. £15 going twice.
Pupils are bidding, as you can see, for certain items that they can take with them into a disaster zone, items that ideally will help them survive this crisis, whether it be earthquake, flood, zombie apocalypse.
So what sort of things are you getting them to think about?
Well, we're hoping to get them to prioritise their needs as opposed to their wants. For example, they might want a packet of sweets in a disaster, but really they need things like extra clothing, tents, these items. Additionally, they ought to think about the different needs of people in the developing world, needs that are not parallel often with their own.
Basically, we're learning all about disasters around the world, and at the moment we're seeing what we think we need most, and if we think we really need it, then we buy most for it. Food, water and shelter seem to be the main things that we need, but I think we have quite a lot for granted here, so it makes you realise how lucky we are.
I thought it was really fun. Yeah, it was good. We learnt a lot.
I've learnt how to make decisions under pressure.
Most kids in our school, that you come to school, you learn and you go away, but you never really we're always quite sort of enclosed in this private school, so when we go out and think about different things, and perhaps we understand that people aren't as privileged as we are, and there are people struggling in the world and who have to be put in these situations.
Been doing teamwork, team building, leadership. We've been learning about the Red Cross. It's been really interesting.
We learnt some first aid, which will come in useful, like if we ever are put in that situation where you need to know first aid. And we learnt how to react in pressurising situations better.
It's been worth it.
The stuff that struck me is how different people respond differently to disasters. And if we need to maybe reflect on how we might respond to a situation, whether it's a car accident or a major disaster, and try and think through what we might do. So be a little bit prepared. Good old Boy Scout motto, be prepared in your thinking.
Over the last 2 days, students have partaken in World Aims Week, where we've learnt the necessary skills in case of a regional disaster.
Charities and organisations have come here to Truro School from all over the county, including Shelterbox, the Red Cross and the Royal Navy.
From these organisations, we've learnt necessary skills such as teamwork, leadership, cooperation and communication.
We now end World Aims Week here at Truro School 2013. This is Abby Piercy
and Connor Donathorne.